Hello again YouTube, and welcome once again to the virtual world of Rouvy cycling. I first looked at Rouvy way back at the start of the first lockdown. Now, at the time, the Wattbike Atom wasn't a supported trainer, and I did have several issues, which I concluded were most likely down to the fact that Rouvy didn't fully support it. Despite the niggles, I did feel that it had potential. I even put that in the video title. So I resolved to revisit it when, or if, they added compatibility for the Atom. Anyway, a few weeks back I saw a post in the Atom Owners Facebook group from a guy who was apparently a Rouvy ambassador. Now in that post he stated that the Atom was, to quote him verbatim, once more accepted as a smart trainer in the app. Now, I got to be honest, I did think that was an odd way to phrase it, because it kinda suggested that the Atom had been approved and then wasn't, and I don't believe it was ever on the approved list. So, in the interests of fairness, I decided to give the latest version a go with the Wattbike and see how things had changed. Now, before even downloading the new version, I did check out their website to see if the Atom was officially on the list. And the really odd thing to me is that, although they reference Wattbike on their homepage, I can't find any reference to specific Wattbikes being supported anywhere on their site. Anywho, undeterred, I downloaded the app to the Apple TV and went for a ride. For the purposes of this review, I'm not going to go into too much detail, you can see my other review for that, so I'll mainly focus on the things I can see that have changed. I've got to say that I do think the interface is pretty clean, and as far as these types of apps go, I think it holds its own against something like Full Gas. Also, they seem to have a pretty good and growing selection of routes, and I do like the pragmatism they've applied to making most of these videos 1080p or 2K. I honestly don't think anyone needs 4K for this type of app. In fact, the only benefit I could imagine 4K gives you is a bit of flexibility when you're editing the videos. But for me, the unique Rouvy selling point has to be the collaboration with Ironman, and the fact that they have a good set of Ironman 70.3 courses available. I'm also impressed by the fact that this list seems to have grown quite a bit since I was last here. Like I said in the first video, being able to train virtually on one of those routes is going to be a real bonus for anyone doing either the 70.3 or full distance Ironman races. And I've got to say that pairing was pretty painless too, which is always a bonus, so it was all looking pretty positive from the outset. But note the use of past tense in that last sentence. So the course I chose for this test was the Tour de France Stage 1 2014, which is actually a UK-based route. Now what I was looking for in terms of functionality was decent metrics, decent controllability, reasonable video quality, and lastly, I had hoped to see the avatar looking just a little bit more natural than I recall. So let's take those in order. Okay, starting with metrics. Well, the numbers seem pretty solid, but I guess they would be, because it's simply reading and interpreting the outputs. And let's be honest, even my old Garmin 910 XT can do that. In fact, the only thing missing, for me at least, is the Wattbike gear indicator. But that's not a huge issue because, as I've said before, the Atom is a bit niche and other apps such as RGT don't capture it anyway, so you can't blame Rouvy for not showing it. What isn't working for me though is the way the data's presented. Personally, I found the little box in the top of the screen just a bit confusing for some reason. And some of the other metrics seem to be, for lack of a better way of putting this, scattered around. Obviously there's a familiarity, or lack of on my part, thing going on there, and I'm guessing you can probably change the display settings if you know what you're doing. But when I compare this with Zwift, RGT or Full Gas, then I just don't feel as well looked after in terms of being able to easily see the numbers I need. I've got to say though that I do like the course profile at the bottom of the screen, which should help manage any little surprises up the road for you. It's probably the easiest part of the stats to understand. But personally, I always found myself kind of hunting around the numbers and not zooming straight in on what I wanted like I can with the other apps. One thing that has definitely improved over the last time I used Rouvy is the controllability with the Atom. Previously the bike would lose all resistance at random, or simply not connect at all. I'm happy to confirm that it definitely does hook up correctly now, and I could actually feel the gradient changes. But again, it kind of gives with one hand and takes away with the other. For me, the road feel is probably my least favourite out of any of the apps I've tried, or indeed use. Don't get me wrong, it definitely ramps up the resistance, but it just doesn't feel very natural. It's kind of an all or nothing deal. I found I was hitting little ramps in the road and spinning up them and then suddenly, bang! Felt like somebody put the brakes on. Now I accept that some of these little kicks in the road do actually feel like that, so I guess that's what they're going for. but there seems to be some sort of disparity between the video, the numbers and the gradient, which just feels odd. Talking of video, I'd say that, like with Forgas, you would be best to download the video files for any course you want to ride. The quality will be better than streaming, and they just play that little bit better. But I did find the videos can be a bit jumpy, even with a downloaded file. Now obviously this will always be the case where you're overlaying real-world video into an app like this, and to be fair, it happens with Forgas in places. But the jumps I see in Forgas I can kind of explain. They're traffic lights, junctions, that sort of thing. But with Rouvy, they were happening in places I wouldn't expect. And the interruptions are consistent across both the streamed and downloaded video, so I guess there's something going on with the video editing process there. So, I've been showing quite a few screenshots here, and what's the only thing you haven't seen on them? Yeah, the avatar. Now, the avatar will only show on augmented reality routes, but the 2DF route I tried is an AR route, so I was expecting to see it. Now, I know this is probably down to something I've done or haven't done, so I'm well up for being corrected if that's the case, but I really did want to see how it's improved over the previous versions. And I tried every menu option I could find to get it to show, but for the life of me, I just couldn't make it visible. I did even wonder if it's something that you don't get in the trial version of the app, but I don't for a minute think that's the case. I mean, doing that would be like offering somebody a new car test drive and then telling them that the demonstrator comes fully equipped, apart from the steering wheel. But to be completely fair, this could be a quirk of the Apple TV, or even just the Apple TV having a bad day. It does seem to do that. And the avatar that you can personalise in the profile section definitely looks improved over the previous version I tried. So in the interests of fairness, I'd say that if you like the avatar and can get it to display, then I'm going to assume that it's as good as the one I saw in the profile. And if I'm honest, I prefer the first person view anyway, so if I was a subscriber, I wouldn't be too worried about the avatar. So let's talk about subscriptions. Although you can buy Rouvy for $12 per month, you only get that price on the annual plan, so you have to stump up $144 in one shot to get it. If you go for the monthly plan, then you're going to be paying over $14 per month. In fact, I think it's nearer to $15. Compare that with Zwift, which is about the same price at £12.99 per month, and Forgas and RGT, which are both relative bargains at just £9.99 per month. And, well, I've got to say, it doesn't exactly strike me as outstanding value for money alongside the competition. But you've got to say that Rouvy are doing something kind of unique with the augmented reality thing, if you can get it to work for you. And they do some things that the others simply don't, including, it would appear, 20 grand in cash prizes each quarter. And there's the Ironman course thing, which I've already said could be a huge plus. But I'm just not feeling the love for it. Believe me, I don't want to come across as negative on it, and I know there are quite rightly a lot of fans of this app. Equally, I accept that having a trainer that isn't officially supported could be at the root of many issues. But I have to speak as I find, and I'd say that if you're a Wattbike Atom owner, then I'd personally be giving my money to one of the other apps I've mentioned. The other apps kind of know who they are. Zwift is unashamedly a video game. RGT is Microsoft Flight Simulator on a bike. And Forgas, well, it's like being there. Obviously no bias there. But Rouvy, it almost confuses me. I don't know what the avatar actually adds when you're riding a videoed route. I struggle to read the numbers, and even if the avatar wasn't showing because of user error, then why the hell is it so hard to actually turn it on when that's one of the things they sell themselves on? So, to summarise, Rouvy on the Wattbike Atom. It's getting there, but in my opinion, it just ain't there yet.